That's what everyone is focusing on. That's what everyone wants. By the way, I did call this yesterday. Just want to say I do believe this reporting from the New York Times, but my predictions might not be great, but my analysis is always sound, and you can fucking see it. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit too, but in any case, let's say one of those options with like regime change comes with Pahlavi. They drop ship him into fucking Tehran. He needs to have constant supervision, constant security, because there's a lot of fucking armed forces that are going to want to kill him, right? So now you got American boots on the ground. You have to have American boots on the ground because he can't just like fly into Tehran and then the next day he's like, all right, we're going to I'm just going to be the transitional monarch that takes on a leadership role here, and then we bring about a secular democracy, right? Like that's the greatest outcome that you are presenting, right? Like you keep telling me Iranians want this. This is the best possible option here. And they come in and he's the transitional monarch that will bring about secular democracy. He's honest about this statement. He genuinely wants what's best for the country, and this is what he wants to do. This is what he's going to do, right? And they come in, and then you have the IRGC, or what remains of the IRGC, armed to the fucking teeth, weapons, bombs, guns, and also tens of millions of people that are going to be very frustrated in the same exact way that, an even larger percentage of the population is very frustrated right now with the Islamic Republic. So then those guys are going to start fucking fighting, right? They're going to start killing people. And then in order to suppress those protests and that discontent, the now newly minted, constitutional monarch that is trying to oversee this transitional secular democratic republic in Iran is going to have to take matters into his own hands. Maybe re-implement a police force, not dissimilar to like what you have as the morality police or whatever the interior security looks like. Now you have Savak once again, or whatever other formation it is. Now you got the same exact process that was happening under the initial Shah puppet state, and then the same exact process that took place in the aftermath of the revolution, where the Islamic Republic started doing very similar things, right? Neither of these paths for the Iranian population look good. This is my analysis on this situation. It's a very complicated and very awful situation for the Iranians, and it's not made better by the sanctions, the corruption at the head of state, and the possibility of a civil war that is imminent. So, no good options here. So the least bad one would be the option where there is at least some semblance of stability, where the actual relinquishing of ownership or scaling back of repression comes from the existing government. I love Israel. Stop talking shit, bruh. True. But there is Hasan just endorsed imperialist intervention already like a real leftist would. It's more complicated than that, though. It's not a one-to-one. Like there is definitely real appetite for revolution in the country. That much is clear. When you got fucking people who are desperate enough to take up arms and start killing cops, start killing security officers and shit, like we're not there yet in the United States of America. Let's be real. But when you get to that point, that means it's like this is no longer just outside agitators. Okay. It's not. And it's definitely no longer just like the anti-Islamist movement, even though there is definitely a little bit of an anti-Islamist slant in the protests overall, which is understandable. If the only expression of cruelty that you have ever experienced as a young Iranian comes from a country or a government or a regime that justifies its existence under the banner of Islam, you are going to develop a lot of resentment towards Islam. That's how it goes. The problem is you're discrediting one of the paths to offer immense liberation for the Iranian people and trying to water down the Ayatollah's regime to make it acceptable within Western society. It isn't. It's a hypocritical fascist theocratic regime. You claim you're not under the thumb of Hamas and backpedal and whitewash Iranian fascism by calling it a republic. Wait, what? Brother, that's just the name. Like, what are you talking about? Are you all right? It's like motherfuckers getting mad when I say Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It's just, that's the name of the country. What the fuck? What do you mean? I mean, I say regime too. I use it interchangeably every now and then. What the fuck? It's like saying North Korea versus Democratic People's Republic of Korea. I don't have like messaging discipline. I don't have like a content Bible here that I'm following. It's just, I'm using these terms interchangeably. That's crazy. You're picking at strings that don't exist and assuming that I have some sort of like cynical or some sort of sinister purpose here. Anyway, so, but to also not burn mosques, right? Both things can be true. I mean, yeah, this is happening because of what I just described to you. It's not just outside agitators that are pushing for this, even though there are, of course, outside agitators that are pushing for this, right? But it's not because of that. It's because, from what I understand, at least for a lot of Iranian youth especially, their resentment, like it's no different in many ways to why the Islamic Revolution happened to begin with. The Iranian Revolution was exactly built around the resentment that people had towards what they perceived as an unjustifiable and repressive, brutal fucking regime. Okay? And at the time, that unjustifiable, brutal regime was a Western puppet state led by the Shah, right? And so it had an anti-Western slant. This time, all of the cruelty that they've experienced since the revolution has come from a government that justifies its existence, that legitimizes itself by claiming it is following the letter of the law when it comes to its own interpretation of Islam, which, for the record, is not even, and I'm not a very religious person regardless, but as a Turkish person, a very secular Turkish person, I'm not even Shia. So that's like the other side of the story that a lot of people get fucking, that a lot of Westerners don't understand, where they look at me and they're like, classic, you're fucking Islamist, dude. It's like, you're not even doing the right kind of racism if you say stuff like that. Okay? If you say stuff like that, you're not even doing the appropriate racism, where I'm not even Shia. Like, unless you are accusing me of doing taqiyya as a Shia Muslim who's secretly hiding that they're Shia Muslim and saying that they're Sunni Muslim. But even then, it doesn't make sense. Hasan, you got to understand, Iran right now is a monarch with Khamenei as kings. The Republic is just marketing for Westerners like you, so you think they have free elections. Wait, what? No, oh my God. Why is it that people don't understand what I'm saying? Yes, I understand. Okay? I know. I literally just said that. I said, one must ask the question why the revolution happened to begin with. The reason why the revolution happened is because people looked at the Shah and said, the fuck is this? Okay? The fuck is this? This is bullshit. They're ripping our fucking fingernails off of our fingers. They're torturing us in torture chambers. There's mass suppression. We hate this. We don't fuck with this at all. Okay? And now, in this modern iteration, the way that the people interpret their own personal repression is exactly the same, except this time, instead of this revolution taking an anti-Western slant, because the secular monarch or whatever was a Western puppet. This time it's taking an anti-Islamist slant because they see the oppression that they're experiencing and the repression that they're experiencing from a regime that legitimizes itself in the eyes of the base of support by following Islam. Okay? That's what I'm trying to explain. I'm saying it's not all that different. Of course, the difference in this circumstance is that there are a lot of outside forces that are trying to take advantage of it. I think no level of restraint from the current government would be enough to ease Western hostility. That's what they are fed up with. They feel pressured and constrained by the West, and they blame the regime for provoking the hostility in the first place. What Iranians want is what a normal, stable relationship with Western countries. You know what's really ironic about that? Something the regime is fundamentally incapable of providing. You want to know something really funny about that? People are going to get mad at me for saying this, but that is quite literally what the fucking Ayatollah has been trying to do. And in many respects, has not been able to force project enough as a mechanism of deterrence. Like, and that's precisely the reason why they just keep getting fucking ritualistically humiliated in the region. You either have sovereignty or you don't. Okay? So what people are saying is they are desperate, and so desperate due to all of the fucking sanctions and due to all the repression that they've seen, that they would rather have Iran become a Western puppet. And what I'm trying to explain is that if Iran became a Western puppet, it would not have stability. Unless you purge the entire, fundy population, unless you purge like tens of millions of Iranians somehow and then like ship them off somewhere else, like the people that are, the ones that go to the fucking square and go, I love this shit. Please, Ayatollah, you are a legend, unless you somehow, dispose of those guys. And that's like at least 10 to 25% of the population. There's no sustainability. There's no sovereignty. Those guys are literally going to do it again. They did it last time. I don't think you're wrong. I'm just not sure how significant what you describe is. I legitimately believe the monarch advocates want that. You got to stop talking down to Hasan just because you're Iranian and you think that makes you an expert. I'm with you that every nation to be sovereign, they need to have nukes, but I personally don't trust Khamenei with nukes when he mows down thousands of his own people with military-grade machine guns. Okay, first of all, given his foreign policy is very different in comparison to his internal repression, he's not going to nuke Isfahan, right? He's definitely not nuking anywhere, and this is why I say he's a fake demon, where these guys are far more ruthless to their own people than they are to people that may or may not deserve it. Okay. And the reason why they have to play this, this tightrope is the reason why they have to play this like delicate tightrope. Wait, what is this? Did not hear your name? Was it about you? Mama and Baba's reaction. Is he Turk? Is he famous? I saw a post about, he posted it for he posted a 4-minute. My husband excited seeing you on his podcast. We believe your voice needs to be heard and seen by more people. Wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Love how the guy defended you and said you are not IR. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. Wouldn't Iran becoming a Western puppet make Israel less valuable and an ally to the U.S.? No. Iran wants to play like a regional actor, but they don't just have the resources or internal support to actually do this. Seems like most Iranians want to focus on internal growth. No, I think there is I am not a committed and I am not a committed believer in the idea that like the Islamic Republic's foreign policy as a regional actor is done simply to like fuck with Israel because they hate the Jews or some shit. Okay, no, they're doing that so that they can one day have internal stability as well. I mean, part of it is because of internal stability, because there's plenty of Iranians who want that, right? But Iranians overseas, in fact, Middle Easterners, overseas, people who were born there and never lived a day in the Middle East should shut the fuck up, dude. I'm tired of these clowns yapping about, well, I'm actually Iranian. No, dude, you're a clown living across the world and don't care about how many people died to achieve your dumbass regime change. Iraqis in America did the same before 2003. Yeah, it's so crazy. Look, I'm going to say my people here for a second. Like, you know, I'm Turkish, but like the MENA region, there is definitely, there is a consistent historical through line here where every single person in the MENA region has historically thought we should look to the West for help. They will treat us as peers. They will treat us as equals. White supremacy be damned. They will know what we are worth. We have thousands of years of history and culture. And one day they will give us the respect that we deserve. That has never happened. Okay? It's just never happened. It has literally never happened. And it's so funny that like every single time there's regime change and instability that comes in the aftermath of said regime change, Arabs, Iranians, people in the MENA region, every single time go, this time it'll be different though. It was bad the last time, but this time it'll be different. It's never different. It's always the fucking same. That's it. There has never been an instance where like this has worked out, okay? Khamenei does gain legitimacy by challenging Israel by being positioned as an opponent to Zionism. It strengthens Khamenei's hold over Iran, whether they are a paper tiger or an actual force against Zionism. Sure, that's true. But I do think that it's a genuine, I do think that if he was just a paper tiger and he did not genuinely represent a threat to Israel in the region, then they wouldn't be so actively trying to destabilize the place. It's the same as Assad. Assad had no fucking legitimacy at that point. I mean, he had such little legitimacy after so much civil war, years and years of fucking civil war and Western and also, you know, Iranian interference, Russian interference, right? That like they deposed of him almost overnight. And this is a very different situation than Assad. This is a very different situation than Assad because, like, in comparison to Assad, Khamenei does, whether we like to, admit it or not, or whether we appreciate it or not, does have a base of support amongst the Shia world, but definitely a base of support internally in Iran, a very sizable base of support, and an entire military structure, a parallel military structure that literally is a repressive force internally. Anyway, as an Iranian, all I want is a democratic and secular Iran. Being an enemy of Israel is pointless in my opinion. I can't be bothered to care about Palestine. Dude, Iranians are so funny because Iranians that say this are so funny, by the way. They literally are just like, can we please be like the Gulf states? No, they're just like, can we please be like the Gulf states? Now, they'll get mad at me for saying this because they'll be like, oh, what? I said secular. I said democratic and secular. How dare you say it's like the Gulf states? That you literally, the second part of that question is unironically the Saudi position, the UAE position. The UAE position is even worse than the Saudi position, let's be real. But like, and it's such a funny time to say this because you look at a country like Qatar, and Qatar has been shot and been damaged more consequentially than fucking Israel as opposed to Iran. It's like, how can you make this calculation after the last 2 years unfolded where you're like, it's fine, dude. It's fine. We're gonna be fine. If we just make nice and play ball with Israel, we'll be all right. Yeah, being against genocide is pointless. Yeah, we want Formula One, we want WWE, we want to be able to sell the oil and have some kind of regional prosperity. It's just like, all right. Also worth pointing out that Gulf states, especially KSA, probably do not want their Shia populations in eastern provinces wilding out when such a destabilizing thing is entirely optional. Wonder if this played a role in them lobbying Trump to pump the brakes. Maybe I'm off base, though. No, you're not off base. I think the real reason for Saudi Arabia also petitioning the government not to fuck around with Iran, especially right now, is not just the Shia population rising up. Like, that's not as significant of a fear, I think, but because they don't want their fucking oil refineries going out with a bang, okay? This is the reason why I fucking told you. This is the reason why I told you, don't just like lean into shit that you see on Twitter. This was a very interesting time on Twitter. The last couple of days was very interesting. Make no mistake, what I'm about to say is going to come across, if you think that I'm like biased and I want like the Ayatollahs to remain in power and I love them because they're pro-Palestine or whatever, everything that I'm about to tell you, you're going to get mad at. So I'm just telling you ahead of time, this is not the case, okay? This is not my belief structure at all. I'm going to do pure analysis here, and I hope you can listen to what I have to say and maintain charitability instead of getting understandably frustrated, because it is a very chaotic time. And it's also, if you have family members that you haven't been able to reach in Iran, right? And you don't know if they're dead or fucking alive because the government shut down the fucking internet. Yeah, you're going to get, you're on edge, and it's understandable that you're on edge. Okay. So here it is. Number one, the last couple of days, especially because Iran is the Iranian government is like understandably not only just repressive, but also is like shutting off the internet and shit like that. The last week or so has been a carnival of some of the most insane people just saying whatever the fuck they want about what's going on the ground in Iran. And I think that has caused people to believe, it's caused people to falsely believe that it's over for the regime, like the regime is falling apart, and that any day now the Shah is going to sit on the throne and bring about like whatever their own personal thing is, right? Like all this speculation has run wild, okay? And not only has the speculation run wild on Twitter, which has played a fairly significant role in manipulating the conversation around this stuff. And it's so funny because like I'm seeing people that were formerly called Islamic Republic supporters literally telling people, dude, no, this is a real thing. This is real discontent. And I'm seeing people like Yashar Ali, who have been called, Pahlavi supporters, telling other people, mostly Israelis and people who are pro-Israel, to be like, no, the Ayatollah is not going anywhere. Shut the fuck up. Okay? This has been a festival of diasporoids fighting amongst one another, fighting everybody, mostly a lot of fucking Zionists too, either Persian Zionists or just like Israeli Zionists, American Zionists. Just like everyone's taking a swing. Okay? Everyone's been taking a swing. And I think it led a lot of people into falsely believing that it was over, right? The regime is done. It's over. It cannot come back from this. And while I do think that it's true that it's only going to get worse from here on out, unless something changes, right? Like a dramatic change, that the next time an uprising takes place, it's going to be even more violent, because now you have thousands of people whose family members were killed. You have thousands of people who had to go to hospitals, go to morgues, go to the fucking streets and try to identify their immediate relatives, okay? That means you have hundreds of thousands of people who are even more angry, who will take arms, who will fucking throw Molotov cocktails at security forces, who might say yes this time around if someone comes in and says, hey, my friends from across the pond are going to ship us some shotguns. Do you want to take up arms against the fucking government? You might be less reluctant this time around, right? Because every single time this kind of death and destruction takes place in the hands of a repressive government, there are going to be more people that want to take up arms, that want to take up revenge. The understandable need for revenge will grow. Okay. So in that regard, yes, you killed this many people. You killed as many people over and over again. Like, something's got to change. Either you have to fucking somehow figure out economic prosperity instantly and start instantly focusing on development and immediately start doing reforms, or you're fucked. Okay, that's it. The only other place where I can think of like this level of death toll from in the hands of a government that has ended up being stable in the long run is China. Okay, Tiananmen Square, not the actual square, but all of the violence that unfolded in the aftermath. That is the only other instance where I can think of where it's not an American ally, because like South Korea has done this. All these other fucking countries have done regular ruthlessness, regular cruelty to its populations. But I'm talking about outside of the like a non-ally nation that has been able to maintain stability in the aftermath of killing this many people. Okay, the only country that I can think of that has been able to successfully do that is China. Okay, all of these other countries, people say, "Oh no, Pepe laugh," but like it's not like the Chinese government. The Chinese government has gone back and forth on recognizing the death count at in the aftermath of Tiananmen Square. It doesn't matter. Okay, I don't care. Like I'm doing serious analysis here. Tiananmen didn't happen. No, it just didn't happen in the way that you think it happened. Okay, in the way that it was presented in fucking Western media. Calm down. So, what about Turkey? Erdogan mowed down people with tanks? Brother, I said outside of the American security umbrella, okay? And non-aligned or anti-American nation, an anti-Western nation. Do you think Turkey, the second largest standing military in NATO, is outside of the American security apparatus? It's not. Okay, that's why I said China is the only one I can think of. Like with that's the reason why I brought up. So, in any case, where was I? I think you'll see in the upcoming days a lot of discontent from Iranians in diaspora that recognize that Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about Iranians, by the way, which will be a surprise to no one that knows how Donald Trump operates. But you'll start seeing that as well. Like, you'll start seeing people get mad at Pahlavi as well, to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're so incompetent, because it's true. He is incompetent. He's just like a Western puppet that I'm not even so certain wants this job. Right. So, they're gonna start getting mad and realize that they don't have any real allies overseas either. So ultimately, I think, we'll see what happens. But my interest always is like how information travels, right? And I think that this last media bonanza was very interesting. It was very interesting because like there were so many people that believed that it was over, right? So many people that believed that it was totally over, it was totally done, and it doesn't seem like it's totally over and totally done, right? Asman is pulling you up right now. Hey, chatters, I have a real question for you. Do I have to know about that while we're doing like serious analysis? We got, we'll make fun of Asman in a little bit, but like, you guys don't have to fucking inform me every single time Asman Gold looks at me. And then come in and be like, Asman Gold owned you again. Many of you don't understand. If you personally don't feel embarrassed to say this out loud, that's more so just That's a cell phone rather than anything else. The whole liberalization movement in China was a long time coming. Like, it was built up for a decade with not that much success. Okay, we're not going to talk about China right now. So, as I said before, the reason why I don't think Trump was, going to engage militarily with Iran was because of all the different factors at play here. Number one, Saudi Arabia and all the other Gulf countries not wanting to destabilize the region further. Okay? That's a huge deal. That's the reason why Saudi literally said publicly, you cannot use our airspace if you want to strike Iran. Okay? They're cowards at the end of the day. They're vassals at the end of the day. But you have to understand, like, if they put their foot down, there's a reason for it. Okay? Israel itself also, seemingly, according to the New York Times is reporting on this, urged Donald Trump not to strike Iran. Yet, this is new from the New York Times. Netanyahu called Trump yesterday. By the way, when people say, like, Asmongold owned you, look, Edward Wong is a New York Times diplomatic correspondent. One must ask the question why guys like this follow someone like myself if I am if I'm at the same intellectual playing field as someone like Asmongold, okay? Anyway, new from New York Times. Netanyahu called Trump yesterday and asked him to hold off on attacking Iran. During the June war, Iran hit Israel with many missiles, killing some civilians. Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt have also asked the U.S. not to attack Iran. And I think the reason why they don't want this, yet is important. The reason why they don't want this yet is because, for Israel at least, it's because they just don't have the fucking smoke for defense. Okay? If Iran retaliates by unleashing another barrage of missiles in the direction of Tel Aviv, Israel is fucked. Okay? Because the Iron Dome is paper dome. And we know that. And that was another cope moment for a lot of people who are pro-Israel. They literally looked at the 12-day war and acted. They looked at the 12-day war and were behaving as though, like, Israel totally dominated Iran. And there is some truth to that. Like, obviously, we found out that Iran has no capability of stopping Israeli espionage from taking place inside of its own boundaries. But in terms of missile for missile, missile to missile, lobbing missiles across from the Iranian soil directly at Israel, they couldn't fucking really stop missiles from hitting Tel Aviv. Okay, they went ban for ban, and they depleted the shit out of the Israeli missile defenses. They did. And that was with cruisers and carriers in the region. So they had American defenses. Right now, there aren't enough. There's no carriers in the region. There aren't enough cruisers in the region that will also help with the ballistic missile defense that Israel desperately needs. And even with all of that, Iran was still able to punish Israel, and Israel only responds to military deterrence. That's it. We know that already. So, Alex B. Ward, national security reporter at Wall Street Journal, says President Trump was advised that a large-scale strike against Iran was unlikely to make the government fall and could spark a wider conflict, U.S. officials said. And for now, we'll monitor how Tehran handles the protests before deciding on the scope of a potential attack. The U.S. would need more military firepower in the Middle East, both to launch a large-scale strike, protect American forces in the region, and allies like Israel should Iran retaliate, that advisors told Trump, the officials said. The U.S. officials and Middle Eastern partners told the White House the regime was unlikely to fall after a massive bombing campaign, which could instead spark a broader conflict. So that's it. So all of this stuff, when the adults actually make the assessment now, when the dust is settled a little bit, is very different than the attitude that was presented a couple of days ago. Everyone was like, intervention now, it's time, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. Now, obviously, I'm a non-interventionist on principle, okay? But even outside of that, I looked at the situation and I thought, I don't think that, I looked at the situation and I covered it, as you guys know, or I was like, I don't think this is the time where it will happen. Outside of the fact that even if it were to happen, if you were to somehow turn Iran into Syria, it would not be good for the Iranian population anyway. Do you see what I mean? So I think it's good to make these assessments with a cooler head and not rely on shit that you're seeing on Twitter, is what I'm saying. I like to receive a diversity of opinion on here when I'm using this fucking website, and it goes from the barrage of Zionists, the barrage of diaspora Persians, okay, and on top of that, people who are non-interventionist, or people who have been called falsely, in my opinion, sympathetic to the Islamic Republic. Like, I look at Yashar Ali, right? Like, there are plenty of people whose information I rely on when I'm making these sorts of assessments. I'm not always going to get it right, but I think it's important for other people to also be a little bit more restrained in their commentary, even if tensions rise. And it's totally understandable that you would be passionate in this circumstance, especially if you have fucking family members down there and you don't know if they're good or not. You don't know if their situation is good. Do you really think people would just go on Twitter and tell lies? Yeah, I know. My mistake.
They're lying.
So yeah, if you want it, Lindsey Graham, if you want to know what I think about the recent developments in Iran, watch this clip. He says, Seamus has a take on it. Seamus says, I've never seen a man so unbelievably depressed that Iran wasn't turned into glass last night.
There are a lot of headlines out there that are, in my view, not accurate. President Trump's resolve is not the question. The question is, when we do an operation like this.
Oh my God, he's so bummed. He's so sad. Oh my God. How could you make little old Lindsey this sad? You should have glassed Tehran just so he could be Isfahan, somewhere, one fucking city, not even a little bit, not even a baby nuke. Look at how sad he is. He looks like he put the farm on Polymarket, dude. He looks like he put the family jewels on Polymarket. Trump will definitely strike Iran tomorrow. And then it didn't happen. And he's like, I'm so sad. I lost everything. I lost everything. I put everything on Israel. I thought to myself, Israel, am Israel chai. Pahlavi, how could you lie to me? Bro's parlay did not hit.
Should it be bigger or smaller? I'm in the camp of bigger. Time will tell. I'm hopeful and optimistic that the regime days are numbered. There are a lot.
Hold on. Anyway, that's funny. That is hilarious. Like the bloodlust. Oh my God. I support war with Iran if we deploy Lindsey Graham and only Lindsey Graham. Yeah, let's launch Lindsey Graham into Tehran, okay? Actually, Not just Lindsey Graham. Anyone that keeps saying like we got to keep intervening, we got to do intervention. Let's just paradrop them. Let's just put them in a fucking plane and drop ship them directly into Tehran. Let's see. Send Ted Cruz tactically. Send John Bolton down there. Mr. MEK. To the Iranians in here, I apologize. I know you've already suffered enough, and now I'm entertaining even additional suffering. I know. You have suffered enough already. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You got a regime that you don't like that is, jailing your friends, sometimes killing them. Okay? Enforcing ridiculous rules that you don't appreciate. Your economy is dog shit. And now I'm suggesting sending a tactical Lindsey Graham. And I know you don't want that. I know. But think about how good it would make everybody else feel. Tactical Lindsey Graham. Hello. Anyway. So we got the Bonzer analysis on this as well. But yeah, we're before we get into the Insurrection Act and stuff like that here, we once again start off the day by talking about Iran. Oh, also, I don't know how much truth there is to this, but former President Hassan Rouhani and former Foreign Minister Javad Zarif have been placed under house arrest according to unconfirmed reports. These two individuals negotiated a nuclear deal with President Obama. So here, let's actually, you know what? Let's look at this. All right. So a major attack on Iran. I already covered this. Major attack on Iran would also require that any wary Gulf partners have an appetite to host CENTCOM. It's only been 6 months since the 12-day war and 4 months since Doha was bombed by Israel. New from The Guardian, Trump's options are limited. He talked up military intervention against the Iranian regime with no military prepositioning having taken place. There has been a drawdown in the last few months, reducing military options further. The U.S. had no aircraft carriers deployed in the Middle East since October, after 2 years of near continuous deployment following the Hamas attack on Israel. Having moved out the USS Gerald R. Ford to the Caribbean in the summer and USS Nimitz to the U.S. West Coast. The U.S. would also have to ask permission to use bases in countries such as Qatar, Bahrain, Iraq, and the UAE, Oman, and Saudi Arabia, perhaps even the UK's Akrotiri base in Cyprus, and protect them and their host countries against retaliation. Even if they aren't used, according to the new Guardian report citing a former head of UK NGSC, even the cyber options are limited. Most cyber attacks risk harming the civilian population more than anything. One possibility, according to them, would be an attempt to restore the internet in Iran. There's nothing at Diego Garcia, not even a Strato tanker. And so it on the one hand, Donald Trump is talking a big game like he's going to fucking pummel Iran. And he still might, because this is America that we're talking about, right? Like America has numerous different strike capabilities, right? Like they can pull off bombing anywhere around the planet from even the continental United States, as they've demonstrated before, right? Like, so the reality is, like, it doesn't, they can do it even without all of this stuff. But the problem is, if they do it without all of the there is one thing that you can always count on, though. He will suck Israel's dick. So if they're not bombing Iran right now, it's probably because Israeli intelligence is saying, don't bomb Iran yet. And I assume the only reason why they wouldn't bomb Iran is for the same reasons that I mentioned. Why are the phones down, newsboy? What do you mean? Oh, you mean the Verizon? I don't know. Yeah. I also think that what took place was potentially a feint. Okay. Couple things I want to mention here. Without access to the internet, okay? Yeah, this was yesterday. Without access to the internet, there's a couple problems here. There's a couple of reasons why this initial bombing campaign that was supposed to happen didn't happen. Because, like, Yesterday, there was supposed to be a bombing campaign. Planes were flying over Iraq, and people were reporting that, like, you know, we had movement, like it was possibly going to happen. You got NOTAM, right? Travel advisory to Iran, all this stuff. And then no bombings happened, right? I think there could be two reasons for this. One, Israel wanted to see what the initial defenses were going to look like with a feint, have their guys on the ground observe, take note of the mobilization that takes place with anti-aircraft weaponry, so that next time when they actually do a bombing operation, they're ready to activate their guys, because there are guys there, right? I think they faked them. That could be one reason. And I said this yesterday as well. The other reason could also be, so there are Israeli infiltrators in Iran. Yes, everybody knows there are Israeli infiltrators in Iran. Okay? The other reason why they might have stopped their bombing campaign before going through with it is because of the lack of access to the internet. So when you don't have internet access, you can't activate your guys. Okay? You can't communicate with your guys. And if you can't communicate with your guys, there might be an issue with coordination, and you don't want your guys in an internet blackout to go out and try to, like, sabotage anti-aircraft defenses, because then you give the game away. Then the Iranian government can just go, oh, there it is. This guy is a fucking Israeli spy. Boom. Killed. Done. Over. Right? And they can engage in apprehensions. They can extract information out of them. But I think the major reason as to why they didn't want to bomb Iran this time, they're using SATCOM, not internet, bud. I mean, they have jammers all over. Like, I know that there's, like, different ways of communicating, but, like, you do realize the Iranian government is not fucking, the Iranian government is not like this backwater, monolithic, not monolithic, sorry, this backwater fucking no technology having ass country, okay? Like, they intercepted the Starlink stuff, and not only, yeah, it isn't monolithic, I was saying Neolithic, but they not only do they intercept the shipment of Starlink, but they also not only have jammers, but they also have surveillance mechanisms. So if you are literally surveilling the entire population, and there's an internet blackout, that shit's gonna light up like a beam when you have someone out of nowhere capable of reaching Starlink. Okay, you have to think about this kind of stuff a little bit. Like, from the government's perspective, they could just as easily keep the internet blackout, okay, to see who is reaching out from where. Do you understand? Like, to bait them, to make sure that they are to make it easier to surveil the masses, to see who is capable of getting through the fucking blackout. There are many different ways that you can draw out spies. There are many different ways that you can draw out collaborators with Israel, for example, before, like, a bombing campaign takes place. But I think the ultimate reason as to why they didn't do this, the ultimate reason as to why Israel didn't follow through with this, is because they did not have sufficient defenses without America, Big Daddy America, being in the backyard. Okay? Not gonna lie, it sounds cool as fuck, like a movie. Brother, this is what movies are based off of, real world events. So that's, I think, the major reason as to why Israel was reluctant to strike Iran. And here is some reporting from Axios. President Donald J. Trump is delaying the decision on striking Iran as the White House consults internally and with allies about the timing for such an operation, and whether it would meaningfully destabilize the regime, according to 5 U.S., Israeli, and Arab sources with knowledge of the situation who spoke to Axios. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to Trump on Wednesday and asked him to wait and to give Israel more time to prepare for possible retaliation from Iran. An Israeli source said, in addition to concerns about retaliation, the current plan by the United States includes strikes on security forces targets in Iran, but is not seen by Israel as strong or effective enough to meaningfully destabilize the Islamic regime. This is Barak Ravid's own reporting, so I have no reason to believe that this is not coming directly from Israel. When Barak Ravid reports something, just know it's Israel saying it, or it's directly Benjamin Netanyahu saying it, or it's Benjamin Netanyahu wanting you to hear that this is what his assessment is. I am a spy from Israel, and I was about to bomb Iran before you said this. Thank you. Yalla, let's go. Frankly, I read this to mean that they're not ready yet and are waiting for the aircraft carrier to steam in. Yeah, no, that's what I think as well. The U.S. would need more military firepower in the Middle East to both launch a large-scale strike and protect American forces in the region, and more importantly than all of the American forces that they need to protect in the region, protect fucking Israel. Okay? That's it. That's why it didn't happen yesterday, I think. That is the major reason as to why it didn't happen yesterday.